Hello, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. It's a Monday night, and it's 7 o'clock on the dot. Appreciate you all joining me. For those watching live and for those coming back to watch the replay, you guys are amazing. Well, look, she is quick on the button today. Hey, everybody. Thank you all for joining. Come on in here. You was quick. You wasn't wasting no time. Look, I can't even get the introduction going, but that's okay. Come on in here, Angel. You all, thank you for joining me. My name is Y Renee. I'm a trauma recovery coach, or the trauma recovery coach. I want to thank you all for joining, those joining live, joining the replay. You guys are amazing. So this month we've been talking about all things divorce. I'm not going to hesitate. We can get into what I do later on if you don't already know. However, I got my good girlfriend who we haven't seen in a few years, like face to face or anything like that. Angel Preston is on. Hello, China. Welcome, and welcome everybody else who's joined on. So I wanted to, she could tell you about herself, but Angel and I met. I don't even remember how we actually met officially. Do you remember?
I do, at Tanya's event when she had her DV.
Oh, we spoke on the same plane.
Yep.
It's been that many
Spoke
years.
that.
Oh my God,
We
what was
sure
that?
did.
2016? No.
Somewhere, maybe 2015.
2015.
I'm thinking
That's
2015.
been a while. Wow.
It's been a while. Yeah,
Yes,
it's been a while.
Okay, so we shared the stage at our wonderful sister, Tanya Garnett's Beauty for Ashes. It was an event that she had during the month of Domestic Violence Month, because we're both domestic abuse survivors, and we got to share the stage and share our stories. And we've been connected since then. I mean, we always support each other and, liking stuff on Facebook, but actually talking and having conversation, we haven't. So, Angel, welcome to my platform. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation. Please tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do. We'll get into the conversation. And then at the end, I'll let them know you could discuss your business and things like that on the end, okay?
All right. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Angel Preston. I am first and foremost a domestic violence survivor. Going on about 15 years now. So that is a huge celebration because every day is something new. Hello. And I have also written a book detailing about things that have happened in my life. I'm also a business owner. We'll get into that a little bit later. I am
an actress.
I act, yeah. I act. I do some other behind the scenes camera work on Chicago Med as well. And I'm an advocate. I'm an advocate for women. I'm an advocate for young girls. I am pretty much an open book. And that's pretty much why I am here.
That's right. Well, good goobity moobity. Like, thank you so much. Like, Angel was like one of the first people to hit me up when I put the post out there on IG and Facebook. She was like, I'm down, sis. What you need, give me here.
Yes.
So thank you again. I appreciate you so much. So let's get into this conversation. And as I started off with everybody else, the reason why this conversation is being had, other than the fact being that I think it's really needed, is apparently you've been married before. And one of the things, I was at a conference and a couple of us were having a conversation and we were talking about the status that we put on when you file applications. They have single, married, divorced, separated, widowed. And so, I know we'll always have, quote unquote, the title of being divorced because we're divorced. We can't take that away from us, because if you've been married and you're no longer married, you're either widowed or divorced. I get that. However, divorce has such a negative connotation. How long before we stop using the term divorce and use single again? So for me, I still have, it wasn't even like I really hadn't really thought about it so we started having a conversation. But I've always, like, I do see when I'm filling out the application, I always hesitate, like, man, should I? And but I never really thought about it to this capacity. So what do you do?
It's funny, it's like you said, it's not that you sit there and think about it. I know for a time I used to check the divorce box, and then it was like, I don't know, one day I stopped doing it, and it went through that stages of hesitation, like, should I put that? I'm like, what? Why they need to know to that? because it's so much that come along with that. And I think honestly, subconsciously, I think about those things, and it's like almost like will they know? It's weird. Maybe just that's just for me, but it just becomes weird, and I just avoid it altogether. So I just get single because I'm single
You know, because
until I'm married again.
I was talking to Anissa, who I had on last night, and we were laughing
Mm-hmm.
about it. And you know, usually when you're divorced, like I said, it comes to a whole bunch of negative connotation, and that's what I'm trying to do. Not break down. I mean, divorce is negative in itself, but I'm trying to break down those stereotypes and stop those triggers, and people are triggered by it. But I was laughing because, you know, like when I go through this thing, somebody asks you, well, are you married? No, I'm divorced. Well, how long you been divorced? I get that question. You know, well, what
Mm-hmm.
happened? And this, that, and the other. And you don't feel like going through that all the time. So then I'll turn around and say, well, no, I'm single. Well, how old are you? And I'll say I'm 49,
Mm-hmm.
50, whatever have you. And they'll be like, well, why you single? You ain't never been married. And so you can't win either way,
Nope.
which is really aggravating, but it is what it is. That's how society is nosy and things like that. So how long were you married?
I was married, we would say about 2 years. I think I got about 2 years out of it. And I've been divorced for 15 years now? Yeah,
Oh, wow.
15.
So you were
15
over
years.
50.
It's been a long
Okay.
time, but there was a lot of things entailed to get there. So yeah. So we made it to 2 years. And then I decided to divorce a year after he left because he became, due to the nature of events and things and the nature of the abusive relationship, he ended up getting incarcerated.
Mm.
So I didn't divorce him until, even though he was incarcerated, until literally a year later. And
Oh,
there's
wow.
reasons
Okay.
for that. Yeah, it's reasons. It's reasons why that even took a process too. So I'll wait for you to get to those questions if you want.
Okay, awesome. That's good that you're willing to share. Praise God. Okay,
Yeah.
so so since you brought it up, we'll go with that. So you were married for 2 years on paper.
Yeah.
You separated after a year because of incarceration. Was the incarceration due to the violence or because of something else?
It was due to violence, but that particular violence wasn't on me.
Okay. Okay.
We'll put it
So
there.
now I'm imagining you probably going through a plethora of emotions. Like, because let's just be real. I tell people all the time when we marry our abusers, they're not abusers when we marry them because
Oh
I don't
no.
believe anybody in their right mind. And when I say right mind, I don't want anybody to take this the negative way. There are people who marry abusers knowing that they're abusers, but that's because of the
Mm-hmm.
environment they were brought up in and they don't know what true love is. So to
Right.
them, abuse is love. So I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about
Right.
that person. I'm talking about
Mm-hmm.
the person who meets the PR person, who meets the phony
Mm-hmm.
person, who meets the person who gives us someone else, have us fall in love with them,
Yep.
and then they come out the bag on us. So
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine that I know without a shadow of a doubt that you didn't marry him without loving him. So I can imagine when you're a year in, all this stuff is happening. You're now in an abusive relationship. He gets incarcerated. I'm sure you still love him regardless of the fact of what's going on. So it had
Mm-hmm.
to be very difficult for you to decide that, okay, so I'm just not going to do this anymore. So were you plan on leaving him or were you plan on ending the relationship before he got incarcerated? Or were you
Well,
going to try to stay and work it out?
well, here's the thing. My situation was really, it had a lot of moving parts. So that question is not just a black or white question. There's so
Okay.
many moving parts to that. And I'm gonna try to put it in like this. So basically, when we were together, like you said, you don't fall in love with an abuser, at least not the parts that they show anyway. And we were together for almost 3 years prior to that, and I wasn't a believer of God. I was still I was young, and the environment I grew up in, certain things were okay. Drug dealers, all these type of things. So it wasn't a big deal if you're dating one, put it like that.
Okay.
And so that was that particular lifestyle, and so that lifestyle came with a lot of consequences, of course, and it got to a point where it got him into trouble, and it in turn got me in trouble with it, right?
Okay.
And so because of that, there was a situation that happened that ended up into a legal situation, and while I was both incarcerated.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah. So his issue became my issue. We weren't married at the time yet, though. We were only engaged at the time, right? And, you know, once he was locked up, I got out first. He got out months later after that. And now we're both fighting cases, right? So while he was incarcerated the first time, you know, we decided we were going to get our lives together. Like this is not the way to go. When he got out, you know, we went to church, we did, you know, all of that. And I just knew, you know, everything was getting on the right track. We were, you know, we were going to be a family and we're going to live right. Right. Few months after he got out, you know, he got into an altercation with a very good friend of him, a friend of his, and some things happened. That person is no longer with us. And then that's when the violence started. It was like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. It was like whoever that person was no longer existed, right? And so it ended up turning, he kidnapped me, basically. I mean, I'm just going to put it like that. He took me on the run with him, right? For almost 2 years, I was on the run with this fool, okay?
Oh, wow.
Nobody knew where I was. The kids were, I have 2 children. My kids were at the time with my mom because that legal situation beforehand, it trickled into the kids. So she ended up having them. Okay. Long story short, the abuse started. I got blamed for everything. I got blamed for that. I got blamed for things that I've never even heard of in his childhood. It was just like these things were triggering him, and it just went all bad. I was the mental punching bag, the physical punching bag, everything punching bag. Okay. And so long story short, they ended up finding him, right? They didn't, you know, they let me go, but they took him because they were looking for him. He got arrested because of the abuse. And I know that's a whole nother conversation. It's probably more in October.
Yeah, because I'm going to have you back on.
It's so mental, and people don't understand that it's so mental. So my mental, like you said, my mental capacity was so all over the place, and I didn't know what to do. You know, I grew up with my grandparents, and I watched my grandfather do things to my grandmother, you know what I mean? And so, but she stayed with them. So I grew up with looking at that you stay in the relationship, right? Especially if it's a marriage. So I learned that. So I struggled. The church was telling me, well, you know, God says, you know, he doesn't believe in divorcing. Because I was a newbie, that's what I stuck on, not realizing like, God don't want you to stay with nobody that's abusing you and, you know, trying to take a life and things like that. You know what I mean? So it was very confusing for me. I did not have anybody to tell me this is not right. You do not need to be in a marriage like this. So I did not know. So that's why when he got incarcerated in May of 2005, it took me May 6th, the exact date of 2006, to get the final divorce while he was incarcerated the second time. Because like I said, I thought I was a failure. I thought that even though I was abused, I'm talking about lots of times, I shouldn't be here. Let's just put it like that. Like for real, I should not be here talking to anybody. Even through that, because like I said, the way I was raised, I saw a marriage that, you know, it was infidelity, all this type of stuff. I thought that, hey, you just stick it out. And then you got the church telling you, no, you got to fight it. You got to fight. And I'm like, this man has literally tried to kill me on a daily basis for almost 2 years. What do you mean? Well, God, so I was very, very conflicted. And so when I decided, when I talked, and it was somebody I talked to in the ministry, the church I was going to, and it was a man. And that's what did it. He said, sis, let me tell you something. He said, God is not pleased by that. He does not want you to be abused. That is not of God. And he said, run. Whatever you need to do. If he's away from you, great. Run. You know what I mean? Run. So I went to the courthouse. And I know that was one of your other questions earlier that you sent me. Did I have support? I did not. I did not have a lot, but I had a family that worked in the court system. And so when it came down to paperwork and everything like that, you know, when you're doing it on your own, you got to fill out all of it. We didn't need an attorney or anything like that because we didn't have, you know, property and we didn't have any children. So that hard part was already taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
It was just me making sure that the paperwork and everything was filed. All my fees got waived, so I didn't have to pay for anything. Bless God for that. I was able to, like I said, I had an aunt at the time. She was working in the courthouse. And so she helped me with, filing and things. And I went into the court and I told them, the judge, they asked her questions, was this person abusive? Was it? And I told them the situation. Now, here's the thing. Here is the thing. The judge that granted my divorce, okay, he was in the middle of a trial. That's how I know it was. Let me tell you something about God, okay? Let me tell you, okay? He is very real. The judge that granted my divorce is the same judge that helped put my ex-husband in jail.
Wow.
He remembered me. He said, wait a minute. He said, I know this name. He said, I remember you. And he said, my goodness. And he said, yep. He paused his case. I'm not even joking. Took the time to sign my divorce papers and sent me on about the courtroom.
Oh, wow. Wow.
As of May 6, 2006, I was a divorced woman. And of course, I caught a lot of repercussions from him because mentally I hadn't even begun to heal, or even knew what that even looked like. So he was still calling the house, collecting all these little different things. I mean, controlling me from the phone because they served him. They still got to serve you.
Right.
They served him in jail. He wasn't happy about that. But
right.
what you gonna do? It's done. I got to go. And then, my journey of healing, I would say, started that year. Real healing as far as knowing who I am and, who God called me to be. And then the journey of my children, of the healing in that process started as well, because I got my custody of my children, and I'm very transparent about that. I'm not ashamed at all. Like I said, I was young, dealing with a fool. I'll be telling these young girls, stop looking at these dudes out here that flashy and stuff. It comes with a cost, baby. It comes with a cost. And so I was able to legally get my kids back the month before. So it was April 6th of 2006, I was granted back my children. May 6th, a whole month late, 30 days later, I got a divorce. So I knew God was at work, and I knew I was on the right path, and I knew I was making the right decisions and going on the path to where I was supposed to go. So
amazing. I just want to welcome Tanya. Tanya is the one who
Tanya.
Watching. We appreciate you, sis. We love you. And thank you for everybody else who's joined us as well. Wow, you just said a whole lot, and I was sitting there taking notes, so I could have came back and asked a question, but it'll come to me. So you didn't have any support except for your relative who helped you in the court system, which could be very difficult. So you said you were still kind of mentally controlled because he was still calling, he was still doing whatever have you. What made you finally decide, like for real, that you were going to go ahead and divorce him? Like, because I understand, like that was a whole year that he had been gone, and even though he had been kidnapped you or whatever have you, again, I still believe, even in the midst of that, I'm quite sure, again, you fell in love with somebody who it was, and even though he was still abusing you, that control, that cycle of abuse, that going back and forth and things of that nature, one day he good, one day he not, it weighs on our mental where we're confused. So I'm sure, even though you were kidnapped, even though you came back, even though he was incarcerated, I could only imagine. I'm not gonna say I assume, I guess. I could only imagine you were kind of fighting yourself inside. So what was the final decision? Was it the man who told you to run that made you?
I would have to say, because at that point, when he approached me, I was so conflicted. I don't even know if I can even use that word. So that's a light term, because I really was confused. I felt guilty. That I was giving up, because like I said, I grew up with grandparents and I watched them stay married. And, you hear about it now, like, old folks, that's why they stay married so long. You think they didn't didn't go through anything. That may be true. You know, you can choose. I know now it's a choice. You can choose to fight for your man, not for no abuse though. Physical abuse, there ain't nothing you can do with that. There's nothing you can do with that. That's a whole nother therapy session for him. They ain't got nothing to do with you. You gonna need a whole nother set. He need a whole nother set. But knowing at that moment, at that particular moment when he said that, it resonated within me so well at that moment that I got to go. This is not it. This is not love. No, and my abuse situations didn't start just with him. You know, mine started in childhood with different other types of, you know, without getting into details about that abuse. So I've known abuse. I've known trauma. So it's almost been a part of me even before then. And so when you get in those kind of situations, it's almost like you're immune to it. You build up an immunity to it. Even though you know it's not right, your mind is so warped in it that you can't make a sound decision. And so that's where I was up until when that man said that. And that is what gave me the drive, honestly, to say, this is nothing that you can save. And that's what I think I did, because I was so in love with him. Like you said, when I say we were like soulmates, we were a year and a month apart. You don't get no closer than that. Our personalities were pretty much spot on. We were each other's best friend. And that was what made it hard. And because I do understand, I'm still that person to this day. I don't always go for, you know how people like, oh, well, such and such, you know, they acting like this and bad. And I just be like, hold on, you don't know the root. I'm into root work. I do root work. And so it makes me very mindful and compassionate to a degree, you know, because people still need to be held accountable to certain things and actions they need to take in certain situations. But I don't just look at people and be like, you know, just judge them. There's a root. There's a reason to why people do what they do. And so, because I'm already naturally that kind of person, and maybe that was because a lot of things I did go through childhood, I look at that, and that's where I think he took advantage of that for sure, that he knew that I knew this wasn't him. Regardless of why The Wire decided wanted to pop, snap, you know, and snap, the fact of the matter is that this is not who he was when I met him, and how he got like this. It was a trigger. Everything can start as a trigger. So maybe that going through that situation was a PTSD moment for him. I don't know. It wasn't my job to know. And I think that's what got me caught up too, because I wanted to know, why did this get like this? We were not like this at all.
Because you want to help. You know, we have women have a natural instinct to nurture, mother, help, try to solve, figure it out, and all that other good stuff. So
it gets us in trouble.
Your conversation has been like, you pretty much answered all my questions. Like, I'm like sitting here like, okay, what do I do? Nope, she did that. Okay, nope, nope, yep, okay, nope, she did that. Okay, so you told me how you felt during the process. You told me that you blamed yourself because you felt guilty. Yeah. You told me what efforts you kind of did before to save the marriage. Okay, so let me ask you a question. So now we're 15 years out, right? 15 years out. You haven't remarried, correct?
I'm engaged.
Congratulations. Actually, would you consider getting married again? But you are getting married again, so that's amazing.
Thank you. It took a long time, and a lot of factors cater to that. I spent a majority of the years working on me. Like I said, a lot of my issues were even before him. So I had to do a lot of soul work, root work for those things, even before I can even get to him, right? Because that was a whole nother can of worms. So once I did that, and then got to the, you know, that particular type of relationship, and, you know, the wounds, the mental and emotional wounds from that, and I still, have triggers and PTSD moments from those. They're nowhere near as bad because now I've been taught to identify them, so I know them. Sometimes you win and sometimes you don't, but it's okay. I'm human, but I get through it.
Right.
And so I said I wasn't going to even entertain the thought being married. At one point, I was like, I'm not doing this. I don't want to be married. I'm okay with being by myself. And honestly, I'm still that way. If I didn't meet my fiance now, I would still feel that way. Like I'm okay if, you know what I mean? I'm at peace if I don't, or if I do. Either one, it's fine. But me and him have been together for 6 years now. About 6 years now.
And how long have you been engaged now?
Since December.
Okay.
Since
have
December
we set a date?
last year. Well, I got real sick. I had caught COVID pneumonia the week after he proposed, so that kind of threw everything off. So everything is being restructured, just like everyone's life. Everyone's
I'm excited for you. That's amazing. That's one of the things, like I said, and we'll talk about what my next question will be, the triggers.
Sure.
Since you talked about triggers. I'm excited for you because
thank you.
One of the things I said last night was I don't want people to come on here and just think that I'm having a conversation to be negative about divorce or negative about things that happen. What I want to do is heal people to understand that there is life after divorce, that you'll be okay regardless of what your divorce is. It just happens to be the 4 people that I have interviewed thus far, unfortunately. We, including myself, we have 5. So 5 of us so far have been all have divorced due to some type of domestic abuse and some shape, form, or fashion. And it's sad. However, it's a part of what happens. So me having these conversations is really to bring education about divorce. Most the women I have interviewed so far are women of faith. So we all have a God issue to it, or a God connection to it, to let people know that God is real and that God is the one that helps us to be better, to improve, to do everything that we're doing. And the fact being that I want people to know that, even if you go through divorce, you don't have to be miserable in divorce. It's just a title. It's a negative connotation to it because of what divorce entails. However, you can't come up from it. There is a chance if you decide that you want to be married again, if you want to do it again, you can do it again. Not saying that you have to. And that there are people out there that could love you unconditionally, that could be better for you. I'm also on here to tell people just don't haphazardly jump into marriage. The reason being is because marriage is a serious institution ordained by God that was meant for ministry purposes, to actually reflect God's relationship with the people of the church and things of that nature. And what I want people to also understand is that in marriage, it's work. It's not going to be something easy. Every day is not going to be roses. The honeymoon period is just that. It is a period. However, you can't date. You can't bring honeymoon periods back. I tell people all the time, you work an 8-hour job, you're going to put in 16 hours or more in your marriage every day. Every day. And even while you at work in your regular job, it's like you double dipping. You got 2 jobs, 2 full-time jobs at the same time, because a lot of people have to multitask. Even though I'm at work, there are certain things I have to be doing pertaining to my marriage. You just can't do without the other. So me having these conversations is to shed light about the positive, about the positive things that can come out of divorce, because I think so many people have said so many times that divorce is negative, that they can't bounce back. That's not necessarily true. It is a mindset. It is a choice. You have to work towards healing. You have to work towards forgiveness. You have to work towards yourself. And if you make yourself the best self possible and you put God first, and if marriage is something that you desire, because I do believe what the Bible says, that man was not meant to be alone. If you put those things first after healing yourself, then that person will be attracted to you, and the right person for you will find you, period. And so that's what these conversations are about. So I don't want anybody to think I'm coming up here, I'm bashing people about divorces. I definitely even our so I will say this before I ask you this next question. This is me being transparent. For a long period of time, I had a nasty taste in my mouth pertaining to my ex-husband. Even today, sometimes I will say, which is disrespectful, I won't call him by his name when I'm talking to people who actually know him. I'll be like, dude. but I've grown because dude wasn't
Yeah,
the word I was using before. It was other
I
words,
know.
other
Oh, I
colorful
know.
words.
I know. I have the words too. A few
Right.
of them.
I was using other colorful words. So dude is like almost like it's almost calling him king. And it's real seriously compared to what I used to call him. And
Right.
I had to get to a point whereas truth be told, as much as the abuse was wrong, he has to take responsibility for what he
Yeah.
did. And some people get mad at me when I say this all the time. But I had to take responsibility for my part that I played into it too. Why? Because even though I was scared, even though I loved him, even though I had fear, even though I didn't want to be embarrassed, even though I didn't want nobody looking down on me, I didn't want nobody in my business.
Right.
Regardless of the fact, even if I thought I was gonna die, if he was gonna kill me or not kill me if I left, I still had the choice to stay or not stay.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to take responsibility for me staying because I thought I could fix it or I thought God would change it. Because once I went into covenant, now mind you, when I got married, unlike yourself, I was a woman of faith. I had relationships. I was going to church. I had those things. So I had a prayer life.
Yeah.
And so my problem was, even though I seen some red flags before I got married, I chose to ignore them thinking that God was going to fix it once I said I do. When I thought about, me entering into the relationship and we were fornicating before marriage, and I thought that God was punishing me and that it wasn't going to get right until I said I do.
Right.
Not realizing that had absolutely nothing to do with it. No, God wasn't pleased in what I was doing. However, it was still, we both needed help. We both needed help in some shape, form, or fashion. Two hurt people can't heal each other.
Nope.
And so you go through all of that. And like I said, I just want, I'm better now. Like I said, when I have conversations with people, I do actually say his name. It brings a to me, but I am better about saying it now.
Yeah, it took a while for me too. It took a while for me to do that. So
right, I can't necessarily say that even though I've been divorced 11 years.
Okay.
I think the last time I seen him was at a loved one's passing, which has probably been about 9 years now, maybe 7 or 8 years now. That was last time, and I still had a hard time. Like, I can't say that I'm necessarily that grown yet. I don't know what I would do if I ran into him in a public space now. I don't know. I don't know if I could be.
I have something to say about that because look, let's see. I'm trying to think of the. Okay, so I've been divorced for 15, but he had a trial. And that was in 2011, right? So, but it was what? He was 6 years. I hadn't seen his face at all. So, mind you, all those years, I'm getting Angel's pretty in a pretty good space mentally. Not all the way there yet, but I'm definitely better than I was, when he left. And seeing him for the first time in 5-6 years, I was sweating in my palms. Okay, I've never had that experience ever in my life. I'm in this courtroom and I'm on the stand and he's sitting across from me, not looking at me at all. Okay, I'm talking about this whole duration and I'm over here, hands feel like I didn't soak them in some water. Okay. And when it was over with, I got ready to sit down in my seat and the judge got ready to give him his sentence. Okay. And imagine he didn't look at me the whole time. When they gave him that, when it was time for them to send him on back where he come from, he looked at me. And I didn't know what to do. Okay. I was like, I felt so nauseous. I felt nauseous. At the same time, I felt like I wanted to hug him. I just felt so many things in that moment because I had not seen him.
The hug part, I think not trying to be funny, because of
No.
course for a long period of time you loved him. I also think that was the compassion of God coming through you, because now you got to think you're seeing him now and you're a saved woman. You have a relationship with Christ.
Yep.
So not only, you're compassionate now, you're on a different level spiritually.
Yes.
I can't say that you might have felt the same way if you had not known Christ. You know what I'm saying?
No. I probably would have been like, that's what you did. You know what I'm saying? Dude, that's what you get. Something else. We just gonna say dude for the loud, okay? And walked out like a boss. Now, look who's suffering now.
Right. See you when I see you. Look, see you when I see you.
See you when I don't see you, okay? Gone, homie.
Oh my goodness.
Suffer and suffer long. Hey,
be real. Hey, tell the
that's
truth.
what it would have been had I not been the compassion of Christ. I know that for it.
Right.
But I still was disgusted. And I remember running out the courtroom, wanting to go to find the nearest garbage can. Because I was just everything came back. Things I hadn't thought about, things that, healing and classes and all these other different things. I thought, no. And it sent me through a trigger spiral. And see, at that time, I hadn't even gotten professional help yet. It was more so spiritual work.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? So it is a difference. People that don't know that it's just a difference.
A big difference.
A big difference. So not to disdain it. It's good work.
Right,
don't get me wrong, because it's a rut. So it got to be pulled up. But the thing about it was, I wasn't ready for the triggers. They don't teach about triggers. So when the trigger spiral came, I found myself in a trigger cluster that I call it.
So you mentioned triggers, which is one of the things
yes.
that I deal with. That's what I do classes about. I do coaching and group sessions and things like that about triggers. So right now, today, even though you're engaged, even though you've moved on and you about to, and make sure I get my invitation to the wedding. I don't care if
you will.
I want to be the adult flower girl. So
come on, girl.
So with that being said, we talking about triggers. So with triggers, do you have some triggers now that are more
good question
than others?
I do want to talk about that because I want to help somebody, and it's real.
Please, because I like to help people too, and that's why I coach and do stuff like that. So go ahead, talk about triggers.
So you got your triggers after a relationship like that, and then you go through whatever work you went through, and there's some triggers you don't expect. So I wasn't in a relationship, of course. This is my first real relationship outside of that relationship. So there was a lot of years, those type of things. So I remember in the first year, I had some unforeseen triggers.
In the first year of your new relationship?
Oh yeah, okay. I did. I had paranoia. I had, because like I said, well, like you said in the beginning, the relationships don't start off like that. So the last time I had these nice things done for me and around me and with me, and then look where it go, right? So it had started to kind of trigger me in the trust department. Now it's like I'm starting to make up almost things that wasn't even going on because I'd already set up in my mind that this is probably, he either gonna cheat, he's gonna do these things, like he did. And then there were times, like when you get your first little argument, oh my God. So you get your first little argument.
But it's different for us.
It's different. And arguments are normal. They're normal. I don't want people to think on here like, no, don't try to act like you don't get into it with your guy. Like, let's cut it out. A lot of people say things in anger, they yell, but in a normal, healthy argument, certain other things don't accompany that. Okay.
Right.
But because this was a normal, healthy argument, I wasn't used to. So I locked up and clenched up because the last time, I'm yelling with somebody, other things came with it. So that was a trigger. So there were things like if I didn't like something, I would be quiet. I wouldn't be like, and it's normal. If you don't like something, you
shut
tell
down.
somebody. Yeah, you supposed to tell somebody you don't like it.
Right.
But because it triggered off how my last relationship was, I just shut down. I wouldn't say nothing, and I'll keep it all in. And then there'll be a time where he would have did something, and it'd be, when I say like minute, I'm gonna just give an example, like taking the cap, leaving the cap off the toothpaste. I'm just using that as an example. He's something, and I will blow up.
Right. Excuse me one second. One second.
Go.
Thank you everybody for joining. I know we've been talking and I'm missing some people that come on. So we want to thank you all for joining us, those watching it live, watching the replay. I see my girlfriend Lawada joined in. My little sister Paget is here. Say Less Josh is here. A couple people have come on and gone off. But I just want to say thank you all for joining us during this good, juicy conversation. Okay. Well, go back to your triggers.
So, it was something just minute like that. And then I would blow up at him. I accuse him. I'll just let him have it. And I learned that was just, pent up stuff that I need to either get to say then. And it just kind of linked in with the triggers I was having. So I had to learn that this is not this person. This person is not here to hurt me. Those type of things. And then, I've had triggers along the years. Every once in a blue moon, I'll have one, and it'd be nothing that he did. It's just like, you just going through the motions of a relationship, and I would have a thought because, sometimes triggers, they'll come without warning,
a date,
the one, exactly.
A date, a piece of
a date, a club, a smell,
yes,
a food, anything. And it can happen.
So when you have your triggers, Angel, let me ask you a question.
Sure,
so for me, a lot of times, like for instance, I'm very conscious of dates. Very conscious of locations. One of my biggest triggers is a trigger I have to deal with daily because I just come back to the place where I got shot at to take care of my father. So every day that I go in and out of my house, I could possibly be triggered because I look at the same location where I laid in the grass and almost lost my life. So there are days that I say I have to maybe drive around the block more than one time. There are days that I have to sit in my car and kind of talk myself off the ledge, because I have to come in the house. I cannot not come in the house.
Right.
So when you have triggers like that, what do you do? Do breathing exercises? Do you immediately call somebody to talk you off the ledge?
I do. I'll either call like my sister, and sometimes, he's understanding, so he knows, I will talk to him. Because I know he's a safe place. And I had to learn that to stop. I had to teach myself, like, hey, he's a safe place. And, he has evolved. There's certain things, me and him talk about, private things. That was another scary thing, talking to him about those things as a man. I'm talking to a man about another man, doing these things. So I had to learn that. But yeah, I do breathing exercises. Those help. Sometimes I'm a very atmosphere person. So when I get to those triggers, I get a high levels of anxiety. Mm-hmm. And so I even have to watch regular anxiety type situations because anything high anxiety will trigger off those things too, right?
Okay.
So I have to either do some breathing exercises. I'll call my sister, call a friend sometime. Or I just have to I'll find comfort things that I like, even if it's a blanket. I know it sounds childish, but it's a comfort. Right. It's a comfort mechanism. I may, indulge in some snacks I like. I don't have a lot of triggers, but you know what I'm saying? I do different things at different times. It really depends on what it is and what's needed. Put it like that, right? Much like a child, depends on the situation. So I do things like that. A lot of it is big comfort. I find myself when I am in trigger mode to find things that's going to bring me comfort and make me feel secure. Sometimes it is my fiance. Sometimes, like I said, it may be a blanket. It may be a movie. It may be my indulging in a snack. Or he'll be like, hey, babe, let's go for a ride. Because he can see me, you know? And sometimes when I get like that, I get worked up on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll start cleaning and moving around and won't sit down. And he knows now.
Next time you feel that way, call me because I got some stuff you can clean up over here.
Got some stuff I can. Yes, honey, okay? And he'd be like, baby, sit down. And that was before he understood. And at one point I had to just break down, you know, because men are men, you know, emotions
Get
and stuff
over
like
it. What's
that.
wrong with you? Are you all right? Then when you
Yeah,
tell them something, they're like, oh, okay.
and it's not that he's
Right.
men, right? So I had one day I just said, let me really just explain it to him. And it may have our relationship maybe went into almost 3 years before I really kind of explained it to him. Because I just wasn't sure. I just felt like, here goes something else. You know, you feel almost defective.
And you
right?
don't know if they'll run for the hills, especially if you got something pretty much good. But then that's when you have to realize if that person is really for you, I'd rather tell you now what my real problems or issues is and see how you respond. Because if you can't respond to whereas you understand what I'm going through, you're actually going to be here to help me, then you're not the one for me. I'm damaged goods to a certain extent. Now God has repaired me and made things better. However, there are going to be times where it's just like with grief. You know, I lost my mom 4 years ago. And I have to say I had a trigger moment last weekend because I walked into a store and I promise you it looked like a lady looked just like my mom. I mean, like almost like they could have been like the sisters. They weren't I mean, it was like short glance and I had to look twice. But they resembled enough for it to trigger me. So I went to the store and I was kind of in a fog. And I got what I needed to do when I came outside. And she was still standing out there. She was very pleasant. And I told her when I walked in, did you remind me of my mom? And she was like, oh, well, God bless you, sweetie, blah, blah. And when I left, she said the same thing. And I got in my car and I was driving to my destination. And when I got to where I was going, I was around family and friends. Yeah. And my bonus daughter was like, Ma, are you all right? And I'm like, no, give me a minute. And I could feel the tears trying to come out and we were there actually celebrating the birthday of another daughter who had took her life years ago. So I wasn't trying to bring attention to myself because we're already dealing with something heavy. We're trying to make light of the situation. So I felt the tears coming down. I was like, just give me a minute. So I got up, I went to the kitchen, I was trying to dry my face. And my friend came in and he grabbed me. He said, are you okay? And I'm like, no, just give me a minute. He said, no, what's wrong? And I immediately, I started bawling. I mean, I had that type of effect about my mom going in quite some time. You know what I'm saying? Even though my mom was my best friend, I feel like I mourned her enough, but I never had those type of effects because I was good to my mom. I never had issues with my mom. When she passed away, I wasn't by her side, but I was there the night before she passed away. Yada yada yada. But last week it triggered me so bad, like I couldn't breathe. And it took time. I mean, I'm glad I was around family and friends to calm me down. But like those things are the same thing that will happen in relationships. That when we're somebody, be it male or female. I mean, this is for me because I know a lot of men don't want to deal with emotions. They don't want to, do different things like that. However, you have to be vulnerable enough with the person who you say you're going to spend the rest of your life with, the person you say you're in love with, the person, even if you don't want to get married per se, but this is a partnership, you in a long haul, you're not going nowhere. My sister reminds me of that. Like when she's not married, but she's very wise. And I look, she's just a year older than me, but she was there right away after my ex got incarcerated and things, and when that journey began. She plays a big part, a huge part to my healing journey. And she till this day she was like, Angel, if this is going to be your husband, so she does, but you need that, especially like you said, for people like that have gone through the things we do. Sometimes we need to
be remotivated and put back on the track, because sometimes you do. Like, there's another trigger of mine, and it's kind of weird. I really, you know what? I'm going to be transparent. So I still really don't understand it all the way. Why it's a trigger? Because it never really was too much of a trigger before. Simply because when I grew up, we grew up with a lot of boys and things. It didn't become a trigger until after the abuse. I can't be around a whole bunch of men at one time. If I go to a gas station and, there's predominantly men, I'll wait to get out of my car, even if I'm already by the pump. I think more with me is that they're all looking at me, and then they got these thoughts and these images that they, you know what I mean? And I think with that, for some reason, it brings me anxiety. Like, I still can't even explain to this day, but it's been like that for over almost 15, 16, 17 years now. And that's a trigger for me. Like, I can't, and I'll tell my fiance knows, he knows. So he usually handles that type of stuff. Like, babe, like, even when his friends, anybody come home, I'll go, you won't get, nope. I just can't, I still don't know what that is. I haven't identified yet.
Yeah.
I just know it's there, and I do know what to do to avoid that if I come into that, because it does bring me high anxiety.
Okay.
And you know what I mean? So that's a trigger. And that's kind of weird, right? Like, it's still some triggers you've dealt with for years, and you really don't even know always what the cause of all of them are, but they came around a certain situation. So I don't ignore it.
You have to do. You have to revisit certain things. You have to go through stages of your life, your child.
Yeah.
What you do is you write down the stuff as you're revisiting something that may have been something that happened in your childhood, but for whatever reason, something small that your ex-husband did in the midst of him kidnapping you, in the midst of whatever have you, and then when you were about that life, it might have been something that happened within the life that you suppressed, that you didn't think about, and then since it's suppressed, and now it comes forth to show itself when you're around those type of men. Because I'm quite sure being in a life, you were around a whole bunch of people,
a whole lot of people.
You know what I'm saying? Most of them, majority probably men, because of what was taking place.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, you just have to revisit it, and then when you find it, then you have to learn how to deal with it. I tell people all the time, the trauma never goes away. It is what it is. Just like we were married once and now we're divorced. Just like you said, and we've been talking about, it's the triggers that we have to learn how to maneuver through and get through life.
And they're okay. And don't feel bad that you got to see, because I think with triggers, I think, and a lot of women, because I've talked to a lot of women as well, that they identify triggers, and I think I said that a few minutes ago, where you tell them, you just like, you don't want them to feel like you defected. A lot of people feel, and I do, some women have told me as well that they felt at some point that the triggers make them feel defective, like there's something wrong. And I like to bring a better light to a trigger. Triggers help you be more aware. And I like to look at it in that scope of things, because when I am triggered, even though it may be a bad thought or feeling or whatever it is, it makes me more aware. It makes me more on point to say, and it makes me more in tune of who I am. And it helps me to learn further what my wants are in lots of situations, whether it be a business situation, whatever. It helps me to be alert. It's weird, but it does. It makes me like, okay, this is what's going on. It also helps me to filter out other different things I may be feeling from a different situation. Like, okay, if I'm going through this, look, it's okay to feel this, feel it, a couple of days maybe, and that's it. Let's deal with it. You know it, move on. Let's go. Right. So in hindsight, it does help sometimes having trigger, because like I said, it does spill over to other things, portions in your life. But I've learned to live with triggers. Like you said, I had to learn that too. There's some things, now I've forgiven them, don't get me wrong, that's been gone. When I tell you I'm okay with that, because that was for me, and I had to learn that the forgiveness was for me. And that was a big part of my healing, to learn to forgive myself, especially because my children were at the time were attached to that. So a lot of my guilt honestly felt more on their side. Not so much that I let myself down or so much of a marriage down, but they were part of the marriage too.
His children, are they?
No. And so because we were we were a family unit. They look, that's what it was. And so I felt like I felt them more with things. And it was like, and that was another reason why it took me a while as well to file. Cause I'm like, okay, I know this life, whatever. I'm willing to put that to the side because my mind is so warped anyway right now. I don't even know what's good for me, what's not good for me at this point because I didn't. And I was willing to just stay in it because the kids were attached. They didn't understand. They went through their own trauma because he's gone. And even though they wasn't present for the acts, they had a lot on their plate as well. So, that was a whole guilt and trigger getting through the years with the kids growing up. And I think that's another reason why I postponed so many years and a long time before I decided I wanted to, I'm gonna give dating a try, and I did, and here we are 6 years later, and people like he just not proposed to you 6. I'm gonna tell you something. Had he proposed to me probably in the second year, like some people do, like a man, no, yeah, he knew when he came after me. It's not, he knew what he wanted. However, there was still some things about me. Like I said, I didn't know I was going to be triggered.
Right.
Who knew? So, how would you know?
Until
you get in a relationship.
Right.
Because I never been the healthy one prior to that.
Right. Okay, so this is my last question, and I'm going to let you close out by explaining who you are and what you do and things like that. So you mentioned the kids, which I wanted to get into anyway, but the rest of the conversation got so good. But since you mentioned them, we'll close out with that. Did you get your, how many children do you have? And did you get your children counseling after?
2 boys, and yes, they received some counseling and things thereafter during their youth, because they grown now. Girl, them boys grown.
They grown. They men. They
men. So even having this conversation thing, it's still fresh. I can still, like, I know how old they were back then, but they grown now. So they went through a lot of counseling and things like that through the church, and they did also get some counseling help, because a lot of the counselors, they had there were some pretty good counselors at school too.
Very good.
So a lot of the free services and things like that were offered through there, but they had their own set of triggers. Like my oldest son, you sometimes, like you said, suppress. They had some suppressed things that came out maybe about 3 years ago, actually. That they didn't even know it was there, and it went all the way back until that time, and I didn't even know it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So they're dealing with that in their young adult age now, and now they know what's a trigger. They know what their moments are and what to avoid and what they should do. And then I am a huge support for them because I learned a lot. And, so I'm able to do that with them as well. And then also, of course, direct them where, who they need to be talking to and things of this nature to feel safe. And they've done that. So yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so
there
much.
You have it.
Look, this whole hour went by real quick. I was like,
I
was going to do like half an hour, 40 minutes, but it was good. That's good conversation. And I appreciate you so much coming on, sharing your story. I probably will be doing this again in October, so we can talk about DV in October, and I'll make sure I let you know so we can put you on the calendar. So please tell people what do you do, how they can get in touch with you, your IG handles, if you're on Facebook and all that other stuff, because I know you have your Skin Innovations and Essentials.
I do.
Thank you.
So I do sea moss, I do body butters. And now I'm doing body sculpting. I have about 15 years of massage therapy. I've been in the medical field for longer than that. So now I'm doing body sculpting because I want to help women. I want to help them feel their best, whatever their best version of themselves. So if you want to book an appointment, I do have a new location coming. I'm waiting for them to build it out. So hopefully that'll be sometime in September. Thank you. I'm really excited about that. I've been working really, really, really hard.
Is it going to be on the south side or the west side?
It'll be in the south side, south suburbs. It'll be in the south suburb. I know it's okay. Come. My
Don't
travel
nobody,
it
don't
got
nobody love the
somewhere,
West Side no
somewhere.
more. Everybody that moved south, don't nobody love the West Side
I
no more.
know, but I was out there before. I was out there for 5 years. I stayed like out there near Oak Park for like 5 years, and I came back. So you can go to my website, www.skinnovationsandessentials.com. My Instagram handle is the same, Skin Innovations and Essentials. My Facebook, Skin Innovations and Essentials, or Angel Preston, you can hit me up. And then you can ask me anything you want to ask me about my business. I will tell you.
Chill Mama said, thank you for sharing. I know, Chill Mama, thank you so much for coming and joining us. And Angel was excited.
Thank
Like
you, Mika.
I think she was one of the first people to ask me, talking about, I got you. I'm on. What day y'all
I
got?
got you. You know, we talk about real conversations like that. I'm telling you, I'm serious. Anytime I get a moment to share my story, to educate, and to give other people hope, because I didn't have it. I wish these kind of conversations, I wish we had technology the way we did. I think a lot of us would be more able to identify those kind of relationships. You know what I'm saying?
Most
I'm just
definitely.
saying.
Most definitely.
So keep doing what you're doing, Miss Raina. I really
Oh,
appreciate
thank
you. You're
you.
amazing. Amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate you. So speaking of that, I will say that I'm excited. So I just finished my we had Level Up was here in Chicago this past weekend. We will be in Atlanta. I'll be promoting that probably in the next couple weeks. But for those people who enjoy listening to me talk, enjoy listening to me share my story and empower other people to know that there is life after, and your after is whatever your after is. It doesn't have to be domestic violence like me, or even suicide prevention like me, or even being shot down like me. It could be after loss of a loved one. Whatever your after is that has you get stuck. I have a platform that I was invited to speak on September 18th in the city of Troy, out of Detroit. This event will be virtual as well as live. I would love to see people's faces in the place. The tickets are on sale via Eventbrite. There are a couple posts on Instagram, definitely on Facebook. I will be posting daily though with the links, so you all can constantly come out and support me. Even if you cannot come live, you can watch it from the comfort of your own living room for a little or nothing. Just buy a ticket. And it's not just me. There'll be 30-something other speakers. We'll all be empowering people. This is a platform that's associated with Forbes and the wonderful gentleman by the name of Sean Flair, who was very well known in the speaking marketing arena. He's amazing. I'm so glad that they saw my value, saw what I added to, or gave content to people and gave value to people, that they selected me to be a part of this platform. So I'm really excited. That's going to be September 18th. Again, it will be live in person in Detroit. So if you're in the Chicagoland area, Detroit is only a 3-hour ride. It ain't that far. Come on up there in Detroit and see your girl and show me your face. Give me some love so I can have some people I know that are backing me. However, if you cannot travel that far, or if you don't have the time to take off, by all means, you could buy a virtual ticket and watch it from the comfort of your home. Have a watch party. Invite some people over. Have them go in on the ticket with you. You all can watch it all on TV or however the platform is that they'll be having. So I'm really excited. I will be keeping you posted again. I want to talk. Next month is going to be a little bit difficult. Next month is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. So I probably will be talking about that as well. However, I'm not sure if I will have guests on or not. That will probably either be me talking a couple times or me just posting a lot of stuff just about it all together. But definitely be back with interviews in the month of October pertaining to domestic violence, since that is one of my niches. And we'll see from there. So again, I thank you all for your support. Thank you all for watching and tuning in. Mike, it's so good to see you, young man. Thank you for coming in. I appreciate you. Mike is one of my friends I met in Jamaica for my 50th birthday. We've been following each other. Awesome young man that's giving value to young kings out there. He's in the medical field, traveling the world and doing good. So yes, thank you all for joining me tonight. I'll be back tomorrow night. Now, tomorrow night, I'm really saying, no, wait, who's tomorrow? No, I'm a day ahead of myself. Tomorrow is my good girlfriend. Right, because, I got men, Angel, that's coming to talk to me this month. I got two. I got one on the 11th and one on the 18th. So I was ahead of myself. Tomorrow's Tuesday. I'm a day ahead of myself. So tomorrow's Tuesday. My good girlfriend Sheila Anderson will be on here tomorrow with her story and testimony about divorce and things like that. But I can't wait. I'm really excited about the men
Oh, I
because
can't
I didn't
wait
think
for
any
that.
men would come on. So just put it on your calendar, Angel. Same bat time, same bat channel on the 11th and 18th. I got 2 gentlemen coming on, and
I
it's
can't wait.
going to be a juicy. I'll make sure it's a juicy conversation.
It's gonna be
I'm gonna make
fire.
sure of it.
I know what it is.
But I'm excited. So again, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming on. Everybody have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you back here tomorrow night.
Bye.
Good night, everybody. Thanks,
Good night.
Angel.
You're welcome. Thank you.